Ethan and his three so-called brothers were crowding around the girl in my limited edition silk sleep dress, shielding her as if she were the center of the universe. "Baby," Ethan said in a coaxing tone, trying to smooth things over. "She's a younger girl we've all been sponsoring together. I brought her here specially so she could meet you, her sister-in-law, you know? Just a friendly visit. Make things lively." The men immediately joined in, their expressions growing uglier by the second. "Vivian, your family's loaded. You've got plenty of houses. This one's empty anyway. Empty is empty. Why not let the girl live here? Think of it as charity. That's meaningful, right?" My gaze swept over the carpet soaked with spilled alcohol, then landed on the ruined silk dress. Cold surged through my eyes. I didn't waste a single word. I took out my phone and dialed emergency services. "Hello, 911. There are people trespassing in my home without permission. Group misconduct. Please come handle it as soon as possible. I refuse any mediation. I want this dealt with strictly according to the law." I ended the call. Silence fell instantly. Chapter 1, at 2 in the morning, my phone exploded with back-to-back calls that felt like a death sentence. "Miss Harrington," the property manager said, his voice shaking. "I'm so sorry to wake you. This is Lucas Reed from Riverside 1. A neighbor just called the police. They said there's been excessive noise in your penthouse. Loud music, screaming. They think someone's throwing a group party, possibly illegal activity." My grip tightened instantly. Any trace of sleep vanished. Riverside 1 was my 25th birthday gift, a top-floor Riverview penthouse. The renovation alone had taken 2 years, but I barely stayed there. My job kept me near the office, so I lived in a downtown apartment. The penthouse had been empty for 3 full months. Even the cleaning service wasn't scheduled until next week. There was no way anyone should be inside. "I understand," I said calmly. "I'll head over now." I didn't call anyone. I threw on a trench coat, grabbed my keys, and drove straight there. That apartment held far more than furniture. Inside were custom pieces, rare collectibles, and over a dozen one-of-a-kind couture dresses I'd spent years acquiring. I have a cleanliness issue. If a burglar had really broken in, I wasn't sure whether I'd call the police or burn the place down myself. 40 minutes later, I stood outside my own front door. Before I even unlocked it, the smell hit me. Cheap cigarettes. Overpowering synthetic perfume. A nauseating sweetness seeping through the cracks. Heavy metal music pounded from inside, vibrating the doorframe. I took a slow breath and entered the code. The moment the door opened, I genuinely thought I'd walked into some illegal suburban karaoke lounge. Beer bottles everywhere. Takeout boxes piled on the floor. My hand-woven Persian rug was trampled black with shoe prints. In the center of the living room, on my white grand piano, the one I never even dared touch, casually sat a greasy tray of boiled crawfish. And sprawled across my Italian leather sofa was my boyfriend, Ethan Miller. He sat wide-legged like he owned the place, peeling a crawfish with practiced ease. His expression was indulgent as he leaned over and fed it to the girl beside him. "Eat more," he said softly. "You're way too thin. It hurts just looking at you." The girl was Lily Brooks, and she was wearing my silk sleep dress. Not just any dress. A globally limited couture piece, 3 in existence worldwide. Price tag, $18,000 US. It was supposed to fall like liquid light. Instead, it was crushed in her oily fingers, wrinkled beyond repair, with a clear stain spreading across the chest. 3 other men stood nearby. Ethan's so-called brothers. The same men who used to nod and call me sister-in-law with forced respect whenever they saw me. Now they were openly jeering. Man, Big M really knows how to treat a girl. "Lily, this place is nice, right? You should just think of it as your own. Stay as long as you want." "Exactly. Miss Harrington has money and houses to spare. One empty place doesn't matter. Let the girl live here, call it charity." They raised their beers, laughing, redistributing wealth. That's philanthropy. Lily bit into the crawfish shyly, but her eyes kept darting around the apartment. "Thank you, everyone," she said softly. "But will Vivian be upset if she sees this? This dress is really expensive. And the apartment is so big. Living here alone, I'm scared." "Scared of what?" Ethan waved it off arrogantly. "I know her better than anyone. She pretends to be cold, but she listens to me. I'll just say we're sponsoring an underprivileged student. Charity. What can she say to that? She should be praising me." If it comes down to it, I'll pay the utilities. That's already generous enough. People in our circle knew one thing about me: I don't lose control. The angrier I get, the clearer my head becomes. And the cleaner my calculations. My red heels clicked sharply as I stepped over the trash and walked in. "Who's there?" Ethan turned around. The smugness on his face froze the second he saw me. Panic flashed through his eyes, but only for a second. It was quickly replaced with irritation. "Vivian, why didn't you say you were coming?" He didn't stand. In fact, he leaned back, subtly blocking Lily behind him. "Perfect timing. Let me introduce you. This is Lily, the student we've been sponsoring. Her dorm conditions aren't great, so I let her stay here for a few days." The others chimed in immediately, grinning. "Oh, Miss Harrington's here. We were just talking about you. You're generous and kind. With all those properties, one extra place doesn't matter. Letting Lily stay here is just helping someone in need." I didn't respond. I looked at the grease on my piano, the cigarette burns on my rug, then at Lily Brooks. She shrank into the couch, clutching the loose neckline of the dress, playing Fragile. "Hello," she said timidly. "I'm Lily. Everyone said you're beautiful and kind. I thought you wouldn't mind." That was when I finally spoke. "Your name is Lily Brooks," she nodded. "Good." I unlocked my phone. "It's 2:30 in the morning, 5 people, unauthorized entry, drinking, smoking, noise violations, and property damage inside my private residence." I looked straight at Ethan. "You never had the access code." He avoided my gaze. "I saw you enter it once. We were together. What's yours is mine, right?" "That was before." I dialed 3 numbers. "From this moment on, you're trespassing." I put the phone to my ear. "Hello, 911. I'd like to report an unlawful entry." "Address: Riverside 1, Tower A, Penthouse 2801. There are multiple intruders. I suspect property destruction, possible theft, and group misconduct." I glanced at the men with unfocused eyes and wrinkled clothes. "There are 4 men and 1 woman. They appear impaired. I also suspect possible drug use. Please bring testing kits." I ended the call. Then I smiled. "I mind, very much. I'm not charitable. So if you want to explain your version of philanthropy, feel free to do it at the station. Illegal entry disguised as kindness is still a crime. And I don't negotiate with moral blackmail." Chapter 2, the air froze for 3 seconds. Then Ethan completely lost it. He sprang up from the sofa and lunged at me, reaching for my phone. "Vivian Harrington, are you insane? Calling the police? Drug tests. Are you trying to ruin me?" I was prepared. I sidestepped calmly. Ethan missed, and his momentum carried him forward. Unable to stop himself, he slammed hard into the porcelain display stand in the entryway, the one holding a Ming-era blue and white vase I'd bought at auction. The impact was brutal. The antique shattered across the floor. Ethan crashed down with it, his palm slicing open on the shards. Blood poured out as he howled in pain. I glanced at the broken pieces. No regret. Instead, I lifted my phone and took a photo. "That step cost $3 million, I said evenly. "Make sure you tell the police you did it yourself." "You vicious woman," he clutched his bleeding hand, rage twisting his face. "We've been together for 2 years. Even if I didn't contribute money, I put in effort. My brothers are your brothers. You couldn't give me this much face?" The 3 men sobered up fast. Emboldened by numbers, they stood and started pointing fingers, trying to intimidate me. "Come on, Vivian, don't take this so seriously. We all run in the same circles. Calling the cops is embarrassing. Lily's just a student. If she ends up with a record because of you, can you live with that? Rich people really are stingy. It's just an apartment. She didn't even damage it." I walked over to the single armchair, the only spot in the room they hadn't contaminated. I pulled out a disinfecting wipe, wiped down the armrest carefully, then sat down, crossing my legs. My voice was flat, calm, deadly. "This apartment is my premarital property. Ethan, you memorized the access code and brought people in without consent. That's illegal entry. Lily Brooks is wearing a globally limited couture piece. It's completely ruined. That's theft and intentional property damage. The rug, the piano, the lock, every item here is worth enough to bankrupt you several times over. Stop lying to yourselves with no damage." Their faces changed instantly. These men were freeloaders who tagged along for free food and drinks. They had never faced real consequences. Lily had already slid off the sofa when she heard the words drug test and $3 million. She stopped pretending. Her face went paper white as she shook her head frantically. I didn't do anything. I didn't mess around. We're innocent. I didn't take drugs either. I just came for a late-night snack. Tears spilled as she dropped to her knees in front of Ethan. The expensive silk dress tore again as it scraped against broken porcelain. Ethan, I'm scared. I don't want to go to jail. If I'd known Vivian would be this upset, I wouldn't have come. I shouldn't have wanted the air conditioning and soft bed. This is all my fault. Please don't fight because of me. Every word sounded weak. Every word tightened the noose around my neck. That fake fragility was more nauseating than the smoke-filled room. Ethan saw his girl in tears and immediately snapped into heroic mode. He pulled Lily up and shoved her behind him, pointing at me in fury. Look at you, Vivian, so aggressive. She's terrified and you're pushing her this far. You want to call the cops? Fine, I don't believe they can do anything to me. I'm your boyfriend. I brought people to my girlfriend's place. That's a domestic issue. Police have no business here. I nodded calmly and glanced at my watch. They'll be here in 3 minutes. And one more thing, Ethan. From the moment I called the police, we broke up. Which means you're now a stranger, bringing other strangers into the home of a single woman. I stepped closer, my voice turning icy. You call this a domestic issue? No, this is a criminal case. And you said your brothers are my brothers? I laughed softly and looked at the men shrinking back. My mother had only one child. The Harrington family doesn't have relatives who live by taking advantage of others. If you care about each other so much, make sure you all go in together. Group offenses tend to carry heavier penalties. I smiled. Try not to miss anyone. Chapter 3, the police arrived even faster than I expected. Riverside 1 wasn't an ordinary address, and the mention of suspected drug use pushed the response time into high gear. The moment several officers in full uniform rushed in, Ethan's arrogance collapsed on the spot. Don't move, ID's out, squat down. The sharp command echoed through the living room. Ethan still tried to posture. Officer, this is a misunderstanding. This is my girlfriend's place. We just had a couple's argument. I stood to the side and calmly handed over my property deed, my ID, and the photos I'd taken earlier. Officer, I'm the homeowner. I do not know these people, except for this man, my ex-boyfriend. They entered without permission and destroyed multiple high-value items. Total damages exceed $5 million. I refuse all mediation. The moment the number was mentioned, the lead officer's expression hardened. That was when Ethan's so-called brothers completely turned on him. We were called here by Ethan. He told us this was his newly bought marital home. Yeah, we had no idea it wasn't his. If we'd known it belonged to Miss Harrington, we wouldn't have dared step inside. That girl, we don't even know her. Ethan brought her along and said she was his sponsored sister. We didn't do anything. Every man for himself. The loyalty they bragged about dissolved instantly. Ethan stared at them in disbelief, his face flushing deep red. You're lying. You didn't say that when we were drinking. When it was Lily's turn, she cried even harder. Officer, I really didn't know. Ethan said I was a poor student and he was helping me. He brought me here to improve my living conditions. The dress, he insisted I wear it. He said it was something he bought for his ex and didn't want any more. He said it'd be a waste to throw it out. I watched the farce without a flicker of emotion. Ethan turned to me, eyes full of resentment. Are you satisfied now, Vivian? Did you have to make it this ugly? Do you know how I'm supposed to survive in our circle after this? I adjusted the collar of my coat. That's your problem. If you do something, you pay the price. The vase was $3 million. The dress was $18,000. Add carpet restoration, lock replacement, and my piano. My lawyer will send you the full invoice. And one more thing. I pointed toward the door. I don't want this apartment anymore. It can't all be billed to you, but depreciation and emotional distress will be calculated separately. They'll be in touch. Everyone was taken to the station for statements. That's when Ethan's parents arrived. His mother, Margaret Miller, a woman who liked to style herself as refined and scholarly while constantly sneering at my wealth, burst into the lobby in a full meltdown. Oh, what kind of sin is this? Officer, this is a family matter. That woman Vivian Harrington is practically our daughter-in-law. Couples argue all the time. How can you arrest people over this? She spotted me sitting on the bench and rushed over, raising her hand to strike me. You cursed little star of misfortune. Just because you've got money, you think you can ruin lives? Withdraw the case. If you don't, I'll make sure you lose face in front of everyone you know. I'd expected this. When I called the police, I'd already contacted my personal attorney. Daniel Foster arrived just in time and blocked her hand effortlessly. I stood up and looked down at the woman who barely reached my shoulder. Mrs. Miller, watch your language. This is a police station. If you lay a hand on me, I will add harassment charges. And let's be clear who exactly is your daughter-in-law. Your son committed illegal entry and property destruction. Evidence is airtight. You want me to withdraw the case? I leaned in slightly and smiled. Keep dreaming. At that moment, the drug test results came back. An officer stepped out holding the report, his expression grim. Ethan Miller. Lily Brooks. Positive results. Suspected marijuana use. You are now under criminal detention. Family members, come sign the paperwork. Margaret Miller's eyes rolled back. She collapsed on the spot. I watched as Ethan was handcuffed, his face drained of color, and Lily screamed about being framed. 4 words filled my mind. Exactly what they deserved. I didn't spare the Millers another glance. As I walked out of the station, I already knew this wasn't over. Ethan couldn't take a loss, and he definitely wouldn't swallow this quietly, which meant whatever came next, I'd settle it all in one go. Chapter 4, Ethan was ultimately detained for 15 days and fined $2,000. After testing, the police confirmed it was his first time using marijuana. The amount was minimal and did not meet the legal threshold for mandatory rehabilitation, so the case was handled under public security regulations. However, the civil lawsuit for intentional property damage never stopped. The afternoon Ethan was released, smear posts began surfacing online. By the next day, a highly inflammatory article went viral. The headline twisted the facts completely, claiming that I had framed an impoverished female college student out of spite after Ethan asked for a breakup, and that I had abused my connections to have her sent to detention. In the story, Ethan became a righteous man protecting the vulnerable. Lily Brooks was painted as a pure, innocent victim. The photos were carefully curated. A cropped shot of me stepping out of a luxury car, my face cold and indifferent. Ethan posed with his hand wrapped in thick gauze, exaggerating his injury. Lily appeared outside the police station in a faded school uniform, eyes red and teary, fragile and pitiful. Black was turned into white. Public opinion exploded. So rich people can just send others to jail whenever they want? That girl is so pitiful. She just needed a place to stay. Was this really necessary? He may be poor, but at least he has backbone, standing up to capital for her. Boycott the Harrington Group, a billionaire's daughter like that can't be decent. My phone rang nonstop. The company's PR department was in chaos. My father called, his voice serious. Vivian, what's going on? Do you want me to step in? No. I looked at the stream of vicious insults on my screen and smiled instead. Dad, this is a perfect opportunity. Ethan likes playing the public opinion game. He likes moral pressure. Then I'll show him what real public execution looks like. I didn't rush to clarify. I didn't take down the trending topics. I waited. I waited for Ethan to think he had won. I waited for him to expose himself further. 3 days later, an invitation arrived. A charity gala hosted by a highly respected elder in our circle. The guest list was elite. Only people with real standing were invited. And somehow, Ethan had managed to get in. Not only that he posted a photo online, it was him and Lily together. Lily sat in a wheelchair, her head wrapped in bandages, her face pale and weak. Ethan stood behind her, pushing the chair, his expression solemn. The caption read, "Justice may be late, but it never fails. Tonight, in front of our elders, I will reclaim fairness for you. As long as I'm here, no one will bully you." The comments were full of praise. He's a real man. So responsible. I swirled the red wine in my glass and shook my head lightly. He chose the charity gala on purpose. He wanted to use the elders' presence to pressure me, to force me to apologize publicly, to withdraw the compensation. Too bad. He miscalculated. I, Vivian Harrington, have never swallowed a loss for the sake of appearances. I picked up my phone and called my lawyer. Daniel, I said calmly, prepare the documents. Tonight, we're going to do some charity. I hung up and walked into my dressing room. I chose a deep red, plunging evening gown, paired it with my emerald jewelry. My presence alone was a statement. When dealing with clowns, the only correct response is to stand brighter and strike harder. Ethan wanted to sell misery at a charity gala? Fine. I'd nail his fake philanthropy to the stage and let him personally finish digging his own grave. Chapter 5. The moment I stepped into the ballroom, the atmosphere shifted. The chatter softened. Eyes turned. The silence wasn't complete, but it was heavy enough to feel. Clearly, Ethan's public opinion campaign over the past few days had worked. I didn't care. I straightened my back, smiled politely, and greeted a few senior figures, acting as though the online storm didn't exist. Then the doors opened again. Ethan entered. He was pushing Lily in her wheelchair, surrounded by reporters like moths to a flame. He wore a suit that didn't quite fit one I had bought for him long ago. He'd lost weight, the shoulders sagged, the effect was almost comical, but the expression on his face was perfect, restrained, wronged, noble. Lily, on the other hand, had fully committed to the role, a washed-out school uniform, bandages wrapped around her head, her complexion pale to the point of translucence. Only one thing gave her away. As they came through the door, she instinctively braced herself on the armrest of the wheelchair and leaned forward with ease. Smooth. Natural, not the movement of someone with a broken leg. I noted it silently. They instantly became the center of attention. Ignoring the host still speaking on stage, Ethan marched straight to the podium and took the microphone. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice trembling with emotion, "my name is Ethan Miller. I came here uninvited tonight, and I apologize for disrupting this event. But I had no other choice. I'm here for justice." He gestured dramatically toward Lily. "This girl, Lily Brooks, is a top student from a poor background. She earns scholarships every year. A few days ago, because of a misunderstanding, she was framed by someone with power and money, accused of theft, thrown into detention." Gasps rippled through the room. Ethan pointed directly at me. "That person sits right here. She owns billions, yet because of one piece of clothing, she was willing to destroy a young woman's entire future. And to retaliate against me, she even had someone break Lily's leg." Lily began to cry on cue, soft, fragile, devastating through the microphone. "This is my fault," she said weakly. "I don't deserve help. I shouldn't have accepted Ethan's kindness just because I had nowhere to stay. I don't blame Vivian. I only beg her to spare Ethan. That $3 million compensation, even if I sold my blood, I could never repay it." The performance was flawless. Too flawless. Whispers spread rapidly through the crowd. "So that's the Harrington heiress? $3 million for one dress? That's cruel. He's reckless, but at least he's protecting her." An older gentleman I knew through my father approached me quietly. "Vivian," he said gently, "enough is enough. He was your boyfriend once. This has gone too far." I could see it in Ethan's eyes, that flicker of triumph. He believed I wouldn't dare tear him apart here. He believed I'd choose face over truth. He was wrong. I set my wine glass down and walked toward the stage. Step by step, calm, unhurried, I took the microphone from the stunned host and smiled at the audience. "Thank you, everyone. Mr. Miller's story was moving. If he hadn't mentioned charity and poverty, I might have cried too." A ripple of uneasy laughter spread through the room. I turned to Ethan and looked at him sincerely. "Ethan, since you say I'm heartless, let me make my position clear. The $18,000 dress, no compensation. The $3 million vase, I'll let that go too." The room erupted in approval. Ethan's face lit up with barely contained joy. Lily stopped crying. Her eyes gleamed. She even tried to stand. "Really?" she said eagerly. "Vivian, I knew you were kind. Hold on." I raised a hand. "There's a condition. You claim this is charity, that you were sponsoring Lily. You said that night in my home that you would all take responsibility for her. So as your ex-girlfriend, I can't fall behind." I took a thick document from my clutch and held it up. "This is a lifetime sponsorship and legal guardianship agreement, prepared by a top legal team. It formalizes every promise you made." I flipped the pages deliberately. "Ethan Miller and the men who stood with you will jointly settle the $3 million damages today. In return, you will assume lifelong joint liability for Lily Brooks. Any future debts, any civil disputes, any legal responsibility. You cover all of it. Breach the agreement, and the penalty is $5 million. All personal assets frozen immediately." The ballroom went dead silent. I handed him a pen and smiled. "Sign it." Do it, and everything before tonight is erased. You get your reputation, you get your moral high ground, you get to be the hero you claim to be. I leaned in slightly. You're not joking about charity, are you? Ethan's hand shook violently. Sweat soaked through his collar. Lily stared at the document like it was salvation itself. She grabbed his sleeve, whispering urgently, "Ethan, sign it. You said you'd take care of me." He snapped. "Get lost." He shoved her hand away and screamed into the microphone. "Who the hell wants to support you for life?" I just wanted her to drop the $3 million. The room exploded. Laughter. Scorn. Cameras flashing like gunfire. The masks were gone, and Ethan Miller stood naked in front of everyone. Chapter 6. Ethan's shout echoed through the entire ballroom, harsh and unmistakable. For a split second, the room froze. Then it erupted. Laughter broke out first sharp, incredulous, merciless, followed by waves of open disdain. So that's what this was about. He just wanted to dodge the money. I knew it. The moment real responsibility showed up, he folded. Did you hear that? Charity, my ass. Camera flashes went wild. Reporters no longer bothered hiding their expressions as they zoomed in on Ethan's contorted face. Lily nearly toppled out of her wheelchair when he shoved her hand away. She stared at him in disbelief, eyes wide, tears finally real. "Ethan, how can you say that? You said I was your true love." "True love?" he snapped, veins bulging in his neck. "Don't make me laugh. If you hadn't said you could soften Vivian up, do you think I'd be standing here humiliating myself? You wanted a rich sponsor. Don't drag me into it." The ballroom filled with low, vicious murmurs. Moments ago, they had been a tragic pair. Now they were a public joke. I stood on the stage, calm and composed, and slowly closed the unsigned agreement. "Apologies, everyone," I said lightly. "It seems this is what passes for charity these days." I gave a small bow. "Since Mr. Miller has declined to sign, I will proceed according to the law." I turned to Lily, whose face had gone completely blank. "Miss Brooks, the dress and the vase will be enforced through the courts. If you cannot pay, you will serve time to offset the debt. No one is coming to save you, especially not the man standing next to you." Then I looked at Ethan. "And as for you," I walked closer, crouched slightly, and spoke in a voice only he could hear. "You think this is the end. You forgot about your so-called charity foundation. You used it to raise funds, skim money, and launder accounts. I hired private investigators. Every transaction has already been submitted to Financial Crimes Enforcement." His pupils shrank violently. "You're lying," he whispered. I straightened and clapped my hands once. The doors at the back of the ballroom opened. This time, it wasn't reporters. It was uniformed officers from the Financial Crimes Unit. "Ethan Miller," one of them said coldly, "you are suspected of illegal fundraising and embezzlement. You're coming with us." Handcuffs snapped shut around his wrists. The sound was clean, final. Ethan broke. Tears streamed down his face, snot and saliva smearing his makeup-perfect performance. "Vivian, I was joking. I really was joking. Please help me. I don't want to go to prison." He tried to kneel, but the officers dragged him up. I looked at him without emotion. I don't listen to jokes. I only look at sentences. He was hauled away, screaming my name. I didn't look back. Chapter 7. After Ethan and Lily were taken away, the gala slowly returned to order, but no one's attention ever fully left what had just happened. Several senior figures approached me with raised glasses. "Impressive," one said. "Truly impressive. Your father raised you well. You'll do just fine leading the Harrington Group." I smiled politely and returned the toasts. There was no triumph in me, only clarity. This had never been about schemes or power plays. It was about one thing. In this world, moral blackmail only works on people without boundaries. The next day, I instructed my lawyer to deliver the complete surveillance recordings, property damage reports, and audio evidence of tax evasion directly to the 3 men who had backed Ethan that night. They hadn't been criminally detained, but their lives were already in ruins. They'd lost their jobs. Their reputations were gone. When Daniel Foster knocked on their doors, they collapsed. "Miss Harrington, we were wrong. Ethan forced us." Daniel adjusted his glasses. "Wrong has a price. Each of you will pay $800,000 in damages. Funds due within 3 days. Late fees accrue daily. Additionally, you will sign written confessions and issue public apologies online for unlawful entry and moral coercion, pinned for 1 month. If you delete them, the evidence goes straight to investigators." They signed, cried, Borrowed money overnight. They would live forever knowing their lives were one mistake away from total collapse. That was the proper ending for people who thought shame could be outsourced. Chapter 8. 6 months later, the verdicts came down. Ethan Miller was sentenced to 8 years for illegal fundraising, embezzlement, and intentional property damage. Lily Brooks received 3 years for large-scale theft and failure to repay damages. I heard she still dreamed of being sponsored in prison until she realized the 3 men she called brothers hated her and never visited once. As for the apartment at Riverside 1, I renovated everything. Every piece of furniture replaced. I even brought in specialists to cleanse the place, top to bottom. On the day it was finished, I stood by the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the river flow beneath the sunset. My phone rang. "Miss Harrington," Lucas Reed said carefully, "there's a package for you. It's from Ethan's mother." "Throw it away," I said without hesitation. "She left a note," he added. "She says it's a proposal letter Ethan once wrote, hoping it might soften your heart so he can get out early." I laughed. After all this, she was still dreaming. "Lucas," I said calmly, "have security destroy it. And if that woman comes to the gate again crying and causing trouble, call the police. Report harassment." "Yes, Miss Harrington." I poured myself a glass of wine and watched the last light fade over the river. Some people believe that wealth means compromise, that kindness means surrender, that morality can be used as a leash. They're wrong. My boundary was never reputation. It was territory, and anyone who tried to cross it paid the price. People like to say that taking a loss is a form of virtue. That yielding shows character. That swallowing humiliation proves kindness. I've never believed that. Kindness without boundaries is just an invitation to be exploited. Morality without consequences is nothing more than a performance for the weak. I didn't win because I was ruthless. I won because I was clear. Clear about what was mine. Clear about where my line was drawn. Clear about the price of crossing it. The world is full of people who dress greed up as charity, laziness as hardship, and manipulation as sincerity. They rely on one thing. That someone somewhere will be too polite to say no. I am not that person, and I never will be. Story 2. A strange young couple was chatting happily in the living room. The young, professional-looking man praised the house. "Mrs. King, your home is absolutely stunning." Margaret King gave a faint smile and replied nonchalantly, "It's all right. This is just one of the properties I've set aside for my daughter." I stood there in utter confusion, looking up once more at the house number. This was definitely my house. Lately, business at the office had been hectic, and the chairman had sent me on an urgent out-of-town trip for a negotiation. Before leaving, I entrusted the house to Margaret King, my live-in housekeeper who had been with me for 3 months. I asked her to take extra care of the place while I was away. Specifically, I emphasized safety and strictly forbade her from bringing guests into the villa. Margaret had promised me repeatedly, "Vicky, don't you worry. Focus on your business trip. I'll keep this house in tip-top shape." I wouldn't dream of bringing anyone over again. The reason she said again was because I had once caught her sneaking in friends from her hometown. When I initially tried to fire her, Margaret had broken down in tears, apologizing profusely. She explained that her friend also worked as a housekeeper nearby and had just dropped in to say hello. She pleaded that she had a daughter in university to support and desperately needed this $1,200 a month job. To be honest, for a high-net-worth individual like myself, privacy and security are paramount. If a housekeeper brings strangers in, I can't be sure if my property or safety is at risk. According to the contract, I could have terminated her immediately. But seeing her look so remorseful, dabbing at her eyes, I felt a flicker of sympathy. Since no damage had been done, I suppressed my irritation and decided not to pursue it further. I made a firm agreement with Margaret. If she ever brought someone into the house again without permission, her contract would be terminated on the spot. Margaret nodded vigorously. With that lesson learned, I believed she would be professional and focus on her duties. The business trip went incredibly well. What was supposed to be a 3-day task was finished in 2. I changed my flight and headed home early. As dusk fell, I arrived back at the gated community. Through the floor-to-ceiling windows of my villa, I could vaguely see Margaret busy in the living room. I took a closer look. It was absurd. Wasn't that the silk shawl I had just bought? Why was Margaret wearing it? I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me. To be certain, I crept closer to the edge of the window to confirm. It really was Margaret. She was draped in the silk shawl I bought just last week, swirling a crystal wine glass in her hand, looking every bit like the lady of the manor. I felt a surge of anger. That shawl was a birthday gift from my best friend. Margaret had told me it went missing after she took it to the dry cleaners. And now, it was on her shoulders I was about to burst in and demand an explanation when I heard a man's voice. "Mrs. King, the decor and the taste in this house are simply magnificent." I froze. It was one thing to wear my clothes, but she actually had a guest over. Hadn't I told her repeatedly not to bring people into my villa? I followed the sound and saw a young man. He was dressed impeccably in a suit, looking very polished. He looked somewhat familiar, and just as I was trying to place him, Margaret spoke again. She gave a modest smile and replied gracefully, "Oh, Ethan, it's nothing special. This is just one of the properties I've given to my daughter. Perhaps because we've lived here so long, the renovations feel quite ordinary to me now." Her tone was perfectly natural, as if she had been saying it her whole life. I was stunned. I took a step back and glanced at the house number again. This was definitely my house. How on earth did it become a property she gave to her daughter? A young woman beside them smiled shyly. I realized then it was Crystal White, the nanny's daughter. Crystal's university was nearby, and she often visited Margaret on weekends. But why was she wearing my fur coat and my limited edition necklace? It seemed that while I was away, this mother and daughter had performed a complete takeover. I pulled out my phone and silently accessed the home security footage. I rewound the footage to the day I left. The moment I was gone, Margaret had ushered Crystal inside. "Crystal, Vicky is away for 3 days. Hurry and set up a date with Ethan for tomorrow afternoon. Bring him here so he can see the scale of our lifestyle. That'll make him stay for good." Crystal looked at Margaret hesitantly. "Mom, are you sure about this? This house isn't ours. What if we get caught?" "I'm terrified." Margaret poked her daughter's forehead sharply. "What's there to be scared of? I've lived here for 6 months. I know every corner of this place. I know Vicky's things like the back of my hand. If you just act the part like I told you, he'll never know. You have to land Ethan. I've worked myself to the bone to put you through school just so you could marry into money." Crystal still seemed unsure. Margaret shoved my fur coat into her hands. "Talk less, smile more." She then fastened my necklace around Crystal's neck. "Wear this one, be careful, though if it breaks, we could never afford to replace it." I turned off my phone, having figured out the situation. The young man in the suit must be Ethan. I never expected to return home to such a dramatic performance. My nanny and her daughter were using my villa for a high-stakes setup. I'd heard of people faking wealth for dates, but I never thought I'd be the victim. I decided to stay put and see what else they had planned. Under the cover of darkness, I stayed hidden outside the window. Margaret was being incredibly sycophantic toward her golden goose. "Ethan, you really are a talented young man. Your company has already made a name for itself in the fashion world at such a young age. Our Crystal loves art too. The two of you are a match made in heaven." Ethan gave a polite smile and ran his fingers over the piano in my living room. He turned to Crystal. "Crystal, you play the piano? That's impressive." Crystal had never touched a piano in her life. She fidgeted nervously, shooting a desperate look at her mother. Margaret jumped in immediately. "Oh yes, she's been studying with professors from the Juilliard School since she was 5. She's won several gold medals. She's just been so busy with her studies lately that she hasn't practiced much." Margaret was a pro. I had to admit her reaction time was impressive. Ethan nodded appreciatively. "Well, Crystal, why don't you play something for us?" Crystal's heart probably skipped a beat as she pulled the fur coat tighter around herself. "Maybe next time, Ethan. I haven't played in so long, I'd be embarrassed if I messed up." Ethan, thinking she was just being modest, insisted, "Don't be shy. It would be an honor to hear you play." The air turned cold and stagnant. Crystal's face was a mask of pure panic. Margaret smoothed things over quickly. "Next time, definitely. Today is for getting to know each other." Ethan laughed awkwardly, not wanting to push Margaret further. He changed the subject. "Crystal, where do you usually like to hang out?" "I'd love to take you somewhere." Crystal opened her mouth. "I usually like the night." Perhaps remembering her mother's instructions, she swallowed the last part of her sentence. "I love traveling." I recently visited several Nordic countries: Sweden, Norway, Belgium, and Spain. I toured them all. Especially in Norway, I saw the polar night. It was absolutely cool. I nearly burst out laughing. A night market had suddenly become a European tour. It seemed Crystal was trying her hardest to sound high class under her mother's tutelage. They were hell-bent on packaging her as a socialite to reel Ethan in. Ethan's eyes flickered for a second, showing a hint of doubt, but he quickly masked it with a look of admiration. "Crystal, I didn't know you loved Northern Europe so much. We should go together sometime." I had felt Ethan looked familiar earlier. I pulled up some photos my assistant had sent me, and it clicked. No wonder he looked familiar. This was Ethan Wright, the CEO of a startup that had submitted a proposal to my company for angel investment. My assistant mentioned he was a self-made man who had built his business from the ground up. He wasn't like Crystal, a fake princess pretending to grow up in luxury. Margaret walked out with a platter of fruit. "Ethan, have some fruit. These are cherries Crystal's uncle just brought back from Chile." Ethan's eyes lit up as he took a cherry. I was once again amazed by my nanny's acting. She could lie through her teeth without blinking. Those weren't cherries from Chile. I had bought them from the local high-end grocery store myself. It was clear Margaret already viewed Ethan as her son-in-law, but Ethan had no idea it was all a scam. They were living a total lie. I wanted to see just how long they could keep this up. I pulled out my phone and dialed Margaret's number. In the living room, Margaret's phone rang. When she saw my caller ID, she froze. Crystal and Ethan both turned their eyes toward her. I expected the nanny to look panicked. Instead, she reacted quite fast. She forced a smile and said to Ethan, "Oh, that's Crystal's father calling. He's abroad on a business trip, and since the time zone is right, he finally has a moment. I'll take this in the study so I don't disturb you too." With that, she scurried into the study, covering the phone. "Hello, Vicky," Margaret said politely. "Mrs. King, could you do me a favor and check the contract on my desk? Put it in a folder and lock the drawer. I'll need it soon." Margaret responded enthusiastically, Of course. Don't you worry about your trip. I'll take care of it right away." I pointedly asked, "Everything okay at home?" Margaret hesitated for a fraction of a second before promising, "Everything is perfect. Just focus on your work. I've got things handled here." I hung up. Her nerves of steel were truly something to behold. A moment later, she reappeared in the living room. "Sorry about that, Ethan. That was Crystal's father calling from overseas. He just signed a massive deal and wanted to share the good news." Ethan replied politely, "That's wonderful. Your husband must be very successful to be doing such big business abroad." Just then, the doorbell rang. Margaret and Crystal both turned deathly pale. They froze in place, seemingly forgetting how to breathe. Seeing that Margaret and Crystal weren't moving, Ethan took the initiative to open the door. It was just a courier with a package. Margaret let out a massive sigh of relief and rushed to sign for it. Crystal's forehead was matted with a thin layer of sweat. As it was getting late, Ethan politely said his goodbyes. "Crystal, Mrs. King, I should be going. I'll call you soon, Crystal, for that outing." Once Ethan was gone, Crystal ripped off the fur coat and carefully unclasped the necklace. "Mom, that scared the life out of me. I thought Vicky was back early. How was my performance? If I land Ethan, I'll be the wife of a CEO." Margaret couldn't stop grinning as she took off the shawl. "You were great. He seemed very impressed with you. Strike while the iron is hot. We need to secure this golden goose so I can finally live in a villa that actually belongs to us." Watching the two of them indulge in their delusions of grandeur, I picked up my suitcase and quietly left the estate. A moment later, Margaret received a text from me. "Mrs. King, my project has been delayed. I'll likely be away for another week. Please keep an eye on the house." I looked back and saw her staring at the screen, grinning ear to ear. She whispered something to Crystal. I didn't need to guess they were planning more dates in my house. Crystal was ecstatic, shouting, "I'll have him wrapped around my finger within a week." I smiled grimly. 1 week was all I needed to make them pay for this. I timed it perfectly, taking a shortcut to accidentally bump into Ethan at the community exit. When I met CEO Wright, I smiled and gave him a quick greeting. "Mr. Wright, were you here visiting someone?" Ethan looked at me confused. "And you are?" I nodded. "I'm Victoria Sterling, General Manager of Auspicious Angel Investment Group." Ethan's eyes widened, and he immediately reached out to shake my hand. "Miss Sterling, it's an honor." "My apologies, I've been trying to schedule a meeting through your assistant for a while now, but I haven't had the chance. I didn't expect to run into you here." Are you a resident here?" I nodded. "Yes, Mr. Wright." "What a coincidence. It's a bit late today, but I'll have my assistant set up a time tomorrow for you to present your investment project to me in person." Ethan's gratitude was palpable. "Thank you, Miss Sterling." "Thank you so much." I gave a casual smile. "Management just notified me that there were some unfamiliar visitors at my house. I checked the security cameras and saw something quite interesting. We'll talk more tomorrow." Ethan blinked, looking confused, but nodded nonetheless. After parting ways with Ethan, I took a car to the apartment my company keeps near the office. Then I contacted my assistant to set the meeting with Ethan for the following day. Opening my laptop, I thoroughly reviewed Ethan's project. As a new fashion venture, his ideas were truly innovative. I had intended to discuss the partnership anyway. It was just a coincidence that I caught the date. Tomorrow's meeting would be twofold. First, to offer this talented young man a chance, and second, to form an alliance to expose the nanny's scam before any real damage was done. After reviewing the project, I checked my home security footage again. After going through the past month's recordings, I was stunned. This was the third time Margaret had used my house for her daughter's dates. My blood began to boil. I checked the camera in the nanny's room, a hidden one I had installed for emergencies. I never thought I'd actually need it. As I scrolled through the footage, my blood pressure rose. My long-lost limited edition handbags, my designer suits I'd only worn once or twice. Margaret had been systematically stealing them and shipping them to Crystal. Under this layer of stolen luxury, the mother and daughter had actually begun to believe they were wealthy elites. During my trip, they had fully moved in as the owners. It was a total reversal of reality. I suddenly realized that if they were taking my clothes and bags, my important documents might be at risk. I quickly pulled up the live feed for my study and saw Margaret and Crystal rifling through my files. My heart leapt into my throat. Crystal's voice came through, sounding agitated. "Mom, my rich girl persona is working. Ethan likes me, but I can't keep coming here only when Vicky is away. To pull this off, I've already spent $45,000 on luxury goods, car rentals, and faking a social life. I took out a loan from a shark to pay for it. How am I going to pay that back?" I covered my mouth in shock. I hadn't realized they had gone as far as taking out high-interest loans to fund their ascent into high society. Margaret's expression turned grim. "What's 45,000? Once you land this golden goose and become his wife, you'll be spending 100,000 like it's pocket change." Then, Margaret's eyes darted around. "Ethan is a CEO. A guy like him needs to see more than just clothes. He needs to see something concrete." Crystal perked up. "Like what?" Margaret pointed at my safe and lowered her voice. "The deed to the house," Crystal gasped. "Mom, are you crazy?" On the other side of the screen, I was equally shocked. Using my house for a date was a moral issue, but stealing my property deed, that was a serious criminal offense. Margaret looked determined. "What are you afraid of? We're just borrowing it, not stealing it. We just need to show Ethan our strength. Once you two are married, a house like this will be yours anyway." Perhaps I had trusted Margaret too much. Somehow, she had discovered the code to my safe. She practiced the combination and pulled out the deed to the villa. "Quick, take pictures, show Ethan your worth." Crystal's hands were shaking, but her desire for a life of luxury quickly overcame her fear. She took the deed and began snapping photos. Then, Crystal had a new idea. "Mom, that 45,000 is due soon. Why don't we use this deed to get a fake one made? We can use the fake to get a massive bridge loan." Margaret's eyes lit up. "Honey, can we do that?" Crystal pulled Margaret close, looking excited. "Mom, once we have the cash, we make a quick investment or just get Ethan to help out. The debt will be gone in no time." They were in total agreement. I stayed quiet, watching them take photos and plan their forgery, silently recording every bit of evidence. I guessed they would look for an illegal lender or a private loan shark. While they were celebrating their impending fortune, the real show was about to begin. The time for the meeting arrived, and I received Ethan in my office. He gave a detailed presentation on his project, and we found ourselves very much on the same page. Once the business talk concluded, Ethan brought up our chance meeting. "Miss Sterling, I honestly didn't expect to run into you in that community yesterday. You mentioned something about an unfamiliar visitor. Was that resolved?" I adjusted my glasses, thinking that Ethan was indeed a sharp man. He had likely noticed something off during his visits to the villa. I took a sip of coffee and acted casual. "Actually, some strange things have been happening at my place. It seems someone has been using my home to host guests while I'm away." I watched his reaction closely. As expected, he immediately asked, "Miss Sterling, if you don't mind me asking, what is your house number?" I pulled out my phone and showed him the photo I'd taken of Margaret, Crystal, and himself chatting in the living room. In the photo, Ethan's back was to the camera. Ethan's pupils dilated instantly. "Miss Sterling, this is your house? Then these two women are?" I nodded. "The one on the left is my housekeeper, Margaret King. The other is her daughter, Crystal White. And the man with his back to the camera." Ethan realized he had been hosting in a house that didn't belong to his date. He turned red with a mix of anger and embarrassment. "Miss Sterling, I am so sorry, I had no idea. Mrs. King told me she was the owner. And Crystal, she's the one I've been seeing." I swiped on my phone to show him the employment contract I had signed with Margaret. It had her photo and signatures from both parties. Ethan stared at the image. He realized he had been played for a fool by a nanny and her daughter. His fists clenched. "I knew something felt off yesterday. I've never been to Northern Europe, but I know that Norway has the midnight sun in the summer, not the polar night. And the countries she mentioned, Belgium and Spain, aren't even in Northern Europe." I couldn't help but chuckle. "So you weren't completely fooled, you had your suspicions." Ethan looked sheepish. "I just thought she was a bit vain. I thought she was a nice enough person, so I didn't want to call her out. But I didn't realize it wasn't just vanity, it was a total fraud. Her identity, her assets, everything is a lie." "I'm so sorry, Miss Sterling. I had no idea I was trespassing. I'm going to find Crystal right now and get an explanation. I want to know why she lied to me." He was agitated, packing his things to leave. I stopped him. "Mr. Wright, don't rush off. I know exactly why she did it." After watching the security footage I showed him, any lingering good feelings Ethan had for Crystal vanished. He sat heavily on the sofa, his face full of resentment. "Miss Sterling, I thought she actually liked me. I thought they were just being a bit boastful to impress me. I never imagined that they didn't care about me at all. They only cared about money. They weren't just vain, they were incredibly greedy. They wanted to use me as a shortcut to change their social status and cover their debts. I thought I was just being played emotionally, but I was nearly led into a dangerous financial trap." He stood up abruptly. "Miss Sterling, thank you for waking me up in time. My company is in its early stages. If I had been dragged into their mess, it would have been catastrophic." I patted him on the shoulder. "Exactly, that pair is manipulative and they will pay for it. Ethan, stay calm for now. Let them have their moment of madness. We'll work together and lead them right into a trap." Ethan looked at me with renewed focus and nodded. We then began to plan the next act of the play. According to our plan, Ethan would pretend to know nothing and continue seeing Crystal. However, for the next full day, he couldn't get a hold of her. No replies to messages, no answered calls. Fortunately, I had sent my assistant to shadow Margaret. That's how I found out the two had gone to a workshop on the outskirts of the city that specialized in forged documents. It confirmed my suspicion they were making a fake deed. When Crystal finally called Ethan back, I was right there with him. "Ethan, sorry I missed your calls. I've been feeling a bit under the weather, so I was sleeping." Ethan played the part of the concerned boyfriend. "Are you all right? I'll come over to see you." Crystal sounded delighted that he was so attentive. Ethan went to meet her. We had to make sure not to spook them. We were playing the long game. After Ethan left, I called Margaret. "Vicky, is everything okay? Are you coming back early?" Margaret asked cautiously. I pretended to be stressed. "No, I'm not coming back early. My project needs some quick funding." "Mrs. King, could you go to my study and look at the contact list in my drawer? Send me the names and numbers of the lending companies on the last 2 pages. But skip the ones marked in red, those aren't legitimate companies. They provide quick cash, but the interest is astronomical." Margaret agreed immediately. "Of course, I'll take a photo for you right away." I soon received the photos. On the security feed, I saw Margaret quickly scribbling down the names of the 2 companies I had marked in red. 10 minutes later, Ethan texted me saying Crystal had rushed off to find her mother. I was thrilled. The fish was taking the bait that evening. I called both of the red-marked lending companies. I pretended to be looking for a loan myself and asked about the fastest way to get cash using property as collateral. Sure enough, one of the companies run by a man named Boss Chester told me that a mother and daughter had just come in that day to secure a loan with a deed. Ethan and I shared a look and smiled. As I expected, Margaret and Crystal wanted to use the fake deed with an illegitimate lender. The information I accidentally leaked was exactly what they were looking for. I asked Boss Chester, "Don't you verify if the property is real?" Chester replied, "We have an appointment to visit the property in 3 days to verify everything and finalize the mortgage." I then told him I had a similar property and asked how much I could get. Thinking he had a new client, Chester started bragging. "That pair today, their villa is in a prime location. If you need cash fast, the interest is 15 compounded. If you don't pay within 3 months, we come for collection." I acted shocked. "Isn't that just a loan shark operation?" He softened his tone. "Miss Sterling, in our business, we're just helping people in a bind. The contract we signed with those two today was for $450,000, but they only walked away with $375,000 after fees. Since you've dealt with my associates before, I can give you an extra $7,000 if you sign." "I'll think about it." "Thanks," I said and hung up. My palms were sweaty. The contract Margaret and Crystal had signed was a deal with the devil. Once they missed a payment, the debt would snowball out of control. I checked the villa cameras to see what they were doing. They were sitting on the sofa when Margaret's phone chimed. $375,000 deposited, the two hugged tightly. "Crystal, we did it." Crystal immediately grabbed a bottle of high-end wine from my cellar to celebrate. A bit tipsy, she muttered, "Mom, tomorrow I'm going to have Ethan take me to the Maserati dealership. Once I marry him, I can pay this off in a heartbeat." Margaret looked at her daughter with pride, though a flicker of fear crossed her eyes as she sipped her wine. But that fear was quickly replaced by the joy of landing a rich husband. Margaret was convinced that Ethan was already head over heels for Crystal. Once the money hit her account, Crystal lost all restraint. The very next day, she dragged Ethan to a Maserati car show. Initially, Ethan tried to talk her out of it. "Crystal, do you really need such an expensive car?" But Crystal was fully committed to her fake persona. "Ethan, I just love Maseratis. Don't you think this color suits me perfectly?" Ethan shrugged helplessly, and Crystal dropped $150,000 right there. In the VIP lounge, I heard she acted like a princess, basking in the attention of the sales manager. Margaret sat in the passenger seat of the display cars, soaking in the envious looks of other visitors. On the third day, Crystal dragged Ethan to look at million-dollar jewelry. Ethan frowned. "Crystal, isn't this a bit much?" Crystal pouted. "Ethan, aren't you a CEO? Why are you being so cheap about jewelry?" Ethan just shook his head. Margaret, sensing Ethan's annoyance, stepped in. "Crystal, Ethan's company is still growing. As his future wife, you need to be more sensible. Otherwise, how will he afford you?" With Margaret's warning, Crystal settled for a $45,000 bracelet instead. When Ethan told me about this later, I nearly doubled over laughing. She was still dreaming of being a CEO's wife, unaware that she was already buried in debt. Ethan was genuinely annoyed. "Miss Sterling, if it wasn't for you, I would have been the biggest sucker in history. They're spending that money like it's water," I sighed. I almost had to admire their audacity. Tomorrow was the day the lenders were coming to verify the house. I wondered if they were even the slightest bit worried. On the day of the appraisal, Margaret called me around noon. "Mrs. King, is everything okay at home?" I asked. "Vicky, I just wanted to check you're still on your trip, right?" I smiled. "Yes, still very busy." Margaret let out a breath of relief. "Great, I'll talk to you later." I knew from the cameras that Boss Chester would be there in 30 minutes. Crystal, having enjoyed 2 days of luxury and Ethan's attention, had moved from nervous to nearly delusional. "Mom, stop being so twitchy. What are you afraid of? We are the owners of this villa." Margaret rubbed her hands together. "Crystal, I just have a bad feeling. How exactly do they verify the house? What if they talk to the community management?" Crystal sat on the sofa, legs crossed. Mom, Boss Chester told us he's just going to take some videos of the place, and we'll hold the copy of the deed and sign the declaration. That's it, fine. Just make sure you seal the deal with Ethan before Vicky gets back. Ethan and I watched them on the monitor, speechless. They were so deep in their fantasy. They didn't realize that an illegal $450,000 loan wasn't just about vanity, it was a threat to their lives. Any sane person would have run as far as possible from them. Suddenly, a loud banging and the frantic ringing of the doorbell echoed through the villa. The charade was about to end. Margaret hurried to open the door for Boss Chester. He and two of his men walked in and began taking photos of every corner. In the living room, kitchen, and bedrooms, they had Margaret and Crystal hold the forged deed and state on camera that they were voluntarily mortgaging the property. The verification was quick, and Chester pulled out the final papers for them to sign. Just as Crystal was about to put pen to paper, the doorbell rang again. Ethan appeared at the door. Margaret and Crystal panicked for a moment. "Ethan, what are you doing here?" Ethan was holding a bouquet of flowers. "I wanted to take you to dinner as a surprise." Crystal's eyes lit up. Margaret was even more excited. She clapped her hands. "Oh, this is moving fast. Ethan, give us a moment. Let Crystal get dressed up before you head out." I nearly laughed out loud outside the door. They actually thought he was going to propose. Ethan's smile was incredibly stiff. I stepped up to the door, pressed my thumb to the scanner, and the door swung open. The sight of me appearing out of nowhere froze Margaret and Crystal where they stood. Boss Chester and his men turned to look at me. Ethan immediately put down the flowers and came over to shake my hand. "Miss Sterling, I didn't expect to see you here. Have you had a chance to look at that project proposal yet?" I shook his hand calmly, my eyes sweeping over the stunned mother and daughter. "Mr. Wright, I apologize for the scene. This is my housekeeper, Margaret King, and her daughter, Crystal White." I then turned to Boss Chester. "And Mr. Chester, what brings a lender like you to my home today?" Margaret looked like she'd seen a ghost. Vicky, why are you back so early?" she stammered. Chester looked suspicious. "Wait, what's going on here?" I handed him the official property registration from the Land Bureau. "Mr. Chester, you might not be aware, but these two forged a deed to take out a $450,000 loan from you." The color drained from Crystal's face. She shrieked, No. It's all over." Chester, being a criminal himself, didn't take kindly to being scammed. He lunged forward and grabbed Crystal by the collar. "You crazy woman, where's my $375,000? You better give it back right now, or you'll wish you were dead." Margaret threw herself at Ethan's feet, clutching his trousers. "Son-in-law, we did this for you. Please save Crystal. Save us, she really loves you." Ethan scoffed and kicked her hand away. "If Miss Sterling hadn't told me the truth, I would have been the one you were bleeding dry right now." Margaret and Crystal stared at him, eyes wide. "What? You knew this wasn't our house?" I raised an eyebrow. "A lie can never become the truth. Now you can pay the price for your vanity. Forgery, attempted fraud, and a massive debt to Mr. Chester. I'd say your lives as you know them are over." The two burst into tears, begging me for mercy. I just shook my head, feeling a mix of pity and disgust. Everyone must take responsibility for their own actions. A moment later, the police, who had been waiting nearby, burst in and took Margaret and Crystal into custody. They would now have to face the full weight of the law. A week later, Ethan and I formally signed our partnership agreement. He asked about the mother and daughter. I told him, in the end, I couldn't be entirely heartless. I settled their debt with Chester to keep them safe from him. Margaret took the full blame for the forgery and was sentenced to 8 years. She's reflecting on her choices in prison now. As for Crystal, she's working 4 different jobs. She keeps only $75 a month for basic living expenses. The rest is automatically garnished and sent to me via the court. Ethan was silent for a moment. "Miss Sterling, you're making them spend the rest of their lives paying for their vanity." I took a sip of my coffee as my phone chimed with a notification. Payment received. 18.50. I knew that was from Crystal's shift today, promoting instant noodles at a supermarket. 6 months had passed since the night the police took Margaret King and Crystal White away. Life in the high-end circles of the city continued as if they had never existed. Ethan Wright's fashion startup, now backed by my investment group, had become the talk of the industry. We were hosting a celebratory gala at a luxury hotel to launch his new collection. I stood on the balcony, overlooking the glittering lights of the city, when Ethan approached me with a glass of champagne. "A penny for your thoughts, Victoria," Ethan said, his tone much more confident than the day we first met. "I was just thinking about how fragile the world of appearances is," I replied, smoothing my silk dress, a genuine one this time. "People spend so much energy trying to look like they belong, they forget to actually build something that lasts." Ethan nodded solemnly. "I saw Crystal yesterday, or rather, I saw someone who used to be her." I raised an eye. "Oh, where?" "She was working as a part-time cleaner at a transit station I passed through. She was wearing a neon vest and a cap pulled low. If it wasn't for that bracelet, she was still wearing the one she bought with the loan money. I wouldn't have recognized her." I looked down at my phone. It had just chimed with a notification. "Payment received, 42.00. "That's her," I said. "That's her cleaning shift payment. Every cent she earns above the poverty line comes to me. It will take her 20 years to pay back what she and her mother stole and squandered." The gala continued downstairs. Ironically, the catering company had sent over a team of temporary servers for the night. As Ethan and I walked back into the ballroom, I saw a familiar figure stumbling under the weight of a heavy tray. It was Crystal. She was working the very event, celebrating the man she had tried to scam. When our eyes met, the tray in her hands trembled. A glass of expensive wine tipped over, splashing onto her cheap uniform. The plastic princess, who once wore my fur coats, was now covered in stains, her hands red and chapped from manual labor. She looked at Ethan, then at me, her eyes filling with a mixture of shame and terror. "I'm sorry, Miss Sterling. I didn't know you'd be here," she whispered, her voice cracking. "You're here to work, Crystal," I said coldly, my voice carrying the weight of a general manager. "So work. And don't drop the glassware. It's expensive, and I'd hate to have to add the replacement cost to your debt." She bowed her head, tears hitting the floor, and hurried away to the kitchen. There was no golden goose to save her now. There was only the relentless cycle of labor and repayment. A few days later, I received a letter from the state prison. It was from Margaret King. In the letter, she wasn't asking for forgiveness. Instead, she was still trying to manipulate me, claiming she had hidden assets she would reveal if I helped reduce her sentence. I didn't even finish reading it. I dropped the letter into the shredder. Margaret was still the cuckoo in the nest, dreaming of a shortcut that didn't exist. She would spend the next 8 years in a gray cell, while her daughter spent her youth scrubbing floors to pay for the 3 days they spent pretending to be queens. As I walked back to my villa that evening, the house was silent and secure. The air was clean, free of the scent of stolen perfume and lies. I sat at my piano and played a piece not because I had to impress a suitor, but because the music was mine, in a home that was truly mine. The fake world they built had collapsed, leaving behind only the cold, hard reality of the debt they owed. And as another notification popped up on my phone, payment received. 15.75. I knew that for Crystal and Margaret, the nightmare was only just beginning. Story 3. No hazard lights, no warning triangle. After a massive impact, my son in the back seat was instantly thrown out of the car. A muffled thud was followed by an even louder crash. The car flipped. After the world spun around me, agonizing pain shot from my waist through my entire body. My head was sticky. When I touched it, my hand came away covered in blood. Ignoring the pain, I struggled to unbuckle the passenger seatbelt, running and screaming for my husband, Ethan Miller. The car had already caught fire, but no matter how I screamed, he didn't respond. I clawed my way out, shouting for help. From beyond the guardrail came rustling sounds, like someone getting dressed. A man and a woman climbed up, their clothes disheveled. "Quick help, save them, my son, my son." "Help me call the police," the couple acted as if they couldn't hear me, walking around our car to inspect it. "Honey, you're amazing. If we declare it a total loss like this, we won't have to spend a dime on repairs." "You bet. Save where you can, spend where you must, but making my little treasure freeze out here for 2 hours in this cold weather, that breaks my heart." "Cold. You made me plenty hot and sweaty just now." These 2 rutting hogs didn't listen to my pleas for help at all. They only cared about discussing the insurance payout. It was a later passing car that finally called the police. My son died on the spot. My husband was left paralyzed. There were no cameras on that stretch of road. The couple opposite refused to admit they had parked there, insisting we had rammed into them. Not only did they refuse to pay a cent, but they also demanded I cover their repair costs. When I couldn't produce the money, they went to my workplace, rolling on the ground, making a scene, and hanging banners. They even hired thugs to cause trouble in the hospital ward. Forced into a dead end with no way out, I jumped off a building and died. When I opened my eyes again, I was sitting in the passenger seat. Ethan Miller was speeding down a pitch-black fast lane. Driving at night is awesome. Not a single car on the road. Ethan was bobbing his head, humming a tune. I pinched myself hard. Ow, that hurt. I had actually encountered something as mystical as rebirth. I quickly checked the time. 11:50 p.m. Instantly, sweat poured down like rain. Only 10 minutes left until the crash. Ethan, get out of the far left lane, move to the middle lane. I sprang up. Go back to sleep. What are you nagging about? I hate it when passengers try to backseat drive. You've barely touched a steering wheel. What gives you the right to command an old driver like me? I told you to move, so move. Do it now. We're going to die. Hey, Sarah Miller, are you going through menopause? You're more annoying than your mother. Ethan was always stubborn. You couldn't reason with him. I watched 2 more minutes tick by. There's a car stopped in the fast lane ahead. If you keep driving, we'll crash in our past life. All 3 of us died. I was frantic, my voice already breaking into sobs. Just trust me this one time. Once we pass that section, you can go back to the fast lane. I'm begging you. Ethan, the road ahead seemed endless, like a giant black hole, constantly swallowing us whole. Are you a psycho? Watch too many soap operas. I swear, you housewives who sit at home watching TV all day are sick in the head. I'm gonna smash that TV when we get back past life. Huh? If it was a past life, why didn't you memorize the lottery numbers? I work myself to death earning money out here, and you just fill your head with garbage at home. I've told you 1,000 times, but you never listen. Now you want to tell me how to drive. You think you're so smart. The time on the screen hit 11:55 p.m. Ethan Miller, I roared in anger. What? He roared back even louder. Yell, yell, yell. I can yell louder than you, you chicken. Change lanes now. Change my ass. You keep nagging, and I'll dump you on the side of the road right now. Believe it? Dump me. Do it now. If you want to die, go do it yourself. Mom, what are you shouting about? In the back seat, Nathan woke up, groggy and confused. Son, stop sleeping. Get up, put on your seatbelt. I was so busy arguing with Ethan that I'd forgotten about our son. No, forget it. Ethan, stop the car. Nathan and I are getting out right now. The car swerved violently into the emergency lane and screeched to a halt. If you're getting out, hurry up. I heard this is bear country. There might be wolves at night. Don't expect me to come back and pick you up. Being bitten to death is better than being crashed to death. I grabbed my phone and reached into the back to pull Nathan. Mom, why do we have to get out? I'm not getting out. I'm not. Nate, listen to Mom. There's danger ahead. Would Mom ever hurt you? Listen to her nonsense. I've been driving for over 10 years. I'm a pro. Why didn't I spot any danger? Ethan lit a cigarette. Fine, you go then. Go die. You can't stop a man hell-bent on his own destruction. Mom, I'm dying of sleepiness. What are you freaking out for? Just get in the car so we can go home. I have to wake up early for school tomorrow. How can I study if I don't sleep? Then when I get bad grades, you'll just yell at me again. So annoying. Nathan lay back down. I could ignore whether Ethan lived or died, but I couldn't abandon my son. But no matter how I pleaded, he wouldn't listen. Just like his father, I tried to forcibly drag him out of the car. But a teenage boy is as strong as an ox. Not only did I fail to pull him up, but I also threw out my back with the effort. I fell hard onto my butt on the ground. Ethan stubbed out his cigarette. Look at that weak body of yours. What a wimp. Well, are you coming or not? If not, we're leaving. I'm coming. I gritted my teeth and climbed back into the passenger seat. I wasn't going to let fate win. The car took off, instantly hitting 90 mph. It almost threw Nathan into the front seat. He yelped as he bumped his head, thinking about how he died instantly in the past life. I had him late at 35. He hasn't even seen me into old age yet, and he insists on following his mule of a father to his death. And Ethan, who ended up paralyzed in the last life. Even lying in bed, he was a nightmare, tormenting me until I nearly went crazy. My anxiety was clawing at my insides. I just finished taking care of his paralyzed mother last month. I am not spending the rest of my life taking care of a paralyzed husband. I'd rather crash and die with them. Nobody survives. Put your seatbelt on, right now. I turned around and snapped at Nathan. This brat only fears the strong and bullies the weak. His dad bumped his head, and he didn't dare make a peep, just clutched his head and grimaced. It's just a strap. He was still talking back. I reached my breaking point, snapped, rose up, and smacked him hard on the head. Little bastard, who are you rolling your eyes at? If I tell you to wear it, you wear it one more word and I'll kick you out right now. We're all going to die sooner or later anyway. Mom, you… Nathan was stunned. Mom, what? If I knew you'd be this disobedient, I should have shoved you back in and baked you a little longer. No, I mean I'm in the back seat. He stopped halfway, not daring to speak further, and confusedly buckled the strap. Hearing the click of the seatbelt. Good, the kid's life should be saved. Whether he loses an arm or a leg, well, that's hard to say. Ethan lifted his eyelids and glanced at the rearview mirror. Sarah, are you a psycho? How dare you hit my son? The next second, he clutched his face, staring at me in disbelief. Are you crazy? I'm not just hitting him, I'm hitting you too. I clawed and scratched at the right side of Ethan's face. Just you wait, Sarah Miller. Wait till we get off the highway, I'll deal with you. Hey, that's enough. What did I do to you? I'm not the one refusing to wear a seatbelt. Honey, I just have a loose mouth. Don't hit my face. How am I supposed to see people tomorrow? I usually couldn't even say a harsh word, but I had no choice. I was truly driven to desperation by these two stubborn mules. My flurry of scratching caught Ethan off guard. While he was distracted, I grabbed the steering wheel. No time left. With a hardened heart, I yanked it violently to the left. Screw it, if I have to force him to stop this way, so be it. Aw shit, son, your mother has gone crazy, Ethan screamed. I knew. Amidst their ghostly wailing, the car slammed into the guardrail with a loud bang. Ethan lifted his head from the steering wheel. Oh God, half his face was bloody. It's fine, that was from my scratching earlier. Aside from a big bump on his forehead, my son and I were unharmed. Sarah, I'm realizing now that you are an absolute hellcat. Ethan looked in the mirror and felt like his sky had collapsed. Boo-hoo-hoo, my handsome face is ruined, Sarah. I declare that from this moment on, I hate you. Starting today, I won't say another word to you once we're off the highway. I'm divorcing you, me. Since when did a car crash reveal this unknown side of Ethan? My son and I got out of the car, but Ethan was still sitting inside. He was holding the side mirror that had been knocked off, looking left and right, heartbroken. He pulled out a tissue. He spat on it and gingerly wiped the mirror again and again. My son and I looked at each other. Normally, Ethan would be jumping up and cursing by now. But at this moment, I couldn't worry about that. This beat-up old car might spontaneously combust any second. I kicked the door open and dragged him out. Look, you're already disfigured. What's the point of looking? You useless thing. It's your fault. It's all your fault, Sarah. Look what you did to my face. I'm gonna fight you, boo-hoo. Ethan reached out to choke me. My brand new 8th-hand sedan, I will avenge you. My son crawled out of the back and sat on the ground. Mom, why do you always cause trouble for Dad and me? Why hasn't Dad made big money? Why are my grades bad? It's all because we have a family member like you dragging us down. Do you know how hard it was for Dad to save up for this car? With this car, Dad could drive for Uber and make extra money every month. Now the car is wrecked. How can he drive? Look at my classmates, moms, they're government officials or factory managers, all thin and pretty. Only you. Every time you come to parent-teacher conferences, I'm so embarrassed. I feel so inferior. How can I study well? Tell me. Nathan kept rambling on, and I was being strangled to the point of breathless. I tilted my head and bit down hard on a chunk of meat on Ethan's arm. He yelped in pain, let go, and shook his arm frantically. I didn't wait to catch my breath. I headbutted Ethan right in the stomach. He fell backward onto the ground. I sat heavily on his face, grinding down hard. Let him call me fat, let him call me a wimp. Today, he's going to witness some real strength. We aren't dying today anyway. Ethan was making muffled noises, scratching and clawing at my butt, but it was futile. My son charged over. I kicked him flying. Picky eater all day long, and now he can't even get up after one kick. Just as we were tussling, a car zoomed past us in the fast lane. 2 seconds later, we heard a massive crash ahead. Instantly, flames erupted, illuminating 2 cars colliding not far ahead. Holy shit, Ethan lifted his head from the ground. Does that guy have shit for brains? Parking like that. Stop cursing, save them. I kicked him and rushed toward the cars, pulling the door open desperately. A man rolled out of the driver's seat. Ethan nimbly scooped him up, threw him on his back, and ran. I checked the car, no one else, and immediately followed Ethan. Run faster. I can't you beat me up too bad, we had only run about 10 meters when we heard a boom explosion behind us. The massive shockwave knocked all three of us to the ground. After a while, I climbed up. Ethan wiped his face and stood up to check the man lying on the ground. He's fine, just knocked unconscious. I'll call an ambulance. Call it. After that, we have business to attend to. I stood up and rolled my wrists. God let me live again, I have to make it count. Revenge for revenge, grievance for grievance. Wifey, you're psychic. If not for you, we really would have crashed. That nice car is wrecked like that. Our little eighth-hand junker would have been flattened, damn it. The car is parked here. Where are the people? Go look under the bridge. Those two animals are under the bridge. Nathan stayed put while Ethan and I climbed over the highway guardrail. Sounds of moaning and groaning drifted up. What's that noise? Did they get hurt and go down there to look for herbal medicine? I rolled my eyes. Maybe you should go back. This ride isn't for kindergartners. Following the sound, we quickly found the people on the wild hillside. Ethan, without a word, waved his fist and prepared to pounce. Wait, watch this, I stopped him. I quickly pulled out my Nokia and snapped a flurry of pictures. Click, click, click. The flash was like a blinding star, illuminating two blobs of pale flesh. The man shuddered violently and let out a trembling scream. What are you doing? So small, and you're afraid of people seeing it. Fuck, you ain't used it, how do you know it's small? My eyes are a ruler, hee. Confirming the enemy was enraged, I put away the phone, took 2 steps back, and shoved Ethan forward. All right, your turn. Ethan punched the man in the head. Screw your mother, what are you doing? Doing what? Doing you? What a pair of shameless dogs, aren't you uncomfortable? If you're so capable, why not do it in the sky? Parking in the fast lane, to come here for thrills, you're worse than pigs and dogs. I'm gonna hammer you to death. Hey, you big idiot, wait till I pull my pants up, I'll kill you. Honey, stop talking. Kill this bastard, hey, this son of a bitch slapped my face, I'm gonna fight you. The two of them were screaming and shouting. Ethan stayed silent, just delivering heavy punches. People are most vulnerable when naked or using the toilet. After a while, the man found an opportunity to scramble up. He was a huge, burly man. He kicked Ethan right in the stomach. The woman was fierce too. She bared her claws, aiming straight for Ethan's forehead. In the darkness, they shone like banshee claws. If not for the element of surprise earlier, Ethan wouldn't have gained any advantage. Seeing he couldn't win, he scrambled up, turned, and ran, that useless coward. Where did all his toughness toward me go? Seeing how crazy the opposition was and how angry they were, I didn't dare stay long either. Run first, talk later. When we got back to the highway, the driver of the crashed car had woken up and was resting against Nathan. Why aren't the police here yet? I can't beat them. What do we do, wifey? Let's drive away, leave. How could I swallow this anger if we just left? I quietly stuck my foot out in front of Ethan, tripping him so he ate dirt. The man caught up from behind, landing 2 heavy punches on him. Motherfucker, you hit our car, then you hit me, you gotta fix my car. You gotta pay me money. Seeing Ethan unable to defend himself, I goaded him from the side. Fight harder, hubby, think about how you became paralyzed. Shitting and pissing in bed, your brain was smashed stupid too. Grabbing shit from the bed and stuffing it in your mouth. Do you know how you finally died? You smeared shit all over your face and suffocated to death. I'll fight you to the death. Hearing this, Ethan went berserk like he was on steroids. Fight, hubby, if anything happens, I'll pull strings to get you out if you don't beat them. You're not a man, prove it to me. I kicked my dazed son nearby. Can't you see your dad getting beaten? Go help him. Mom, I don't know how. Before Nathan could finish, I kicked him straight into the center of the fight. Go, son, pull that woman's hair, kick that man in the crotch. Put some effort into it. Son, you're a minor. You won't go to jail for killing someone if anything happens. Mom will support you for the rest of your life. Even combined, Ethan and our son were no match for that adulterous couple. Giving it their all, they only inflicted superficial wounds on the enemy. It was a case of hurting the enemy by 800, but damaging oneself by 1,000. The driver we saved from the rear car, realizing the context and seeing the battle, struggled to go help. "Don't go, just stay here and be an honest eyewitness." There were no cameras here. Besides, it was time for the father and son to suffer a bit. I'd wanted to beat them up for a long time. Estimating the police were about to arrive, I stopped hiding. I found a brick, gritted my teeth, and smashed it hard against my own forehead. "Ah, hubby son, I'm coming to save you." I charged into the fray with the speed of lightning. Aggressive, but with bad aim. First, I smacked the brick onto the back of my son's head. "Ah, oh my God, Mom, look before you hit." Okay, I agreed repeatedly, then smashed the brick onto Ethan's arm. "Holy crap, Sarah, you psycho woman, with my help." The already chaotic battle turned into a complete mess. When the police arrived, I shoved the brick into the hands of the man opposite me, grabbed Nathan with my left hand, Ethan with my right, and whoosh, we collapsed to the ground. "Oh, my head, my arm, my knees, my tailbone." Ethan, confused, still wanted to struggle up and argue with them. I angrily pinched his thigh hard in secret. "Lie down." Nathan, the kid, reacted fast, immediately wailing along. "Police officers, they did wrong first. We were just being good Samaritans and got beaten up. These two bad people won't even spare a kid like me. Boo-hoo-hoo." Right. This is the budding flower of our society. And they are destroying the flower. Oh my, I'm dizzy, nauseous. I want to vomit. I'm dying. The flower of the nation is withering. This series of actions clearly caught the other two off guard. "No, officer, this woman ain't a good person. We were driven, just fine. They came and hit us, then beat us up. God damn it. City folk bullying us simple farmers. I'll fight ya." "Stop," the officer blocked him. "We're here and you're still this arrogant? Driver's license." "Officer, my name is Frank Carter. My ancestors served the emperor. I'm a good man." "Do you have evidence proving you didn't hit them? If not, come back to the station with us." "Hey, I ain't going." "They ain't got evidence we hit 'em either. Clearly, they hit themselves. I see it now. Y'all are in cahoots. I'm gonna pray to my ancestors to take y'all away. I can testify." The man who had been sitting slumped on the ground suddenly spoke up. The driver of the crashed car testified for us that Frank Carter struck first. We testified for him that the car was parked in the fast lane. Frank Carter and the woman were handcuffed and taken away by the police, crying and screaming. Living life again, I finally pulled my whole family back from the abyss of death. But this was far from enough. Our family of 3 ended up staying in the same hospital ward. Ethan kept asking if I remembered the lottery numbers. I was truly annoyed. I turned and slapped his back. "Get lost. You saved your life, isn't that enough? Don't get greedy. In the last life, after burying my son, my hair turned white overnight. I had to care for him in a coma while fighting a lawsuit against Frank Carter. I was chased by the hospital for bills daily and extorted by Frank Carter for money. Repairs cost $10,000, mental damages for the 2 of us is $10,000, plus lost wages since the car is broken and we can't work $1,000 a day. Total is $150,000. You city folk aren't short on cash. Besides, your son is gone. Who are you saving money for? Just let a little leak through your fingers for us. Technically, without a court verdict, what right did he have to make demands? But this scoundrel didn't care about the law. He went around saying he was a simple farmer being bullied by a city woman like me. He even exposed that I was working a part-time job, getting me fired by my boss. The second before I died of sudden cardiac arrest, I saw Frank Carter holding a banner and distributing letters written in blood in front of my workplace. How could I have the mind to buy lottery tickets? 1 ticket costs $1. That's enough to buy 4 buns to eat for 2 days. "Sarah, why did you hit me?" Cough, cough, cough. "Woman, how did you get so strong?" Ethan shot up. "Don't think just because you saved our lives that you're the boss now. I reckon even if we crashed, it wouldn't have been a big deal. Look, someone else crashed and they're fine. You're just." "Ah, Ethan Miller, watch your attitude when you speak to me. This is the last warning." I tilted my head, pointing at him. Smiling, I released my grip on his neck, leaving 2 deep red marks. I've already died once. What do I have to fear? God sent me back to be the boss. Ethan was stunned for a long while, then turned his back. I didn't know if he was asleep or not. The doctor prescribed a long list of checkups for us, head to toe. They didn't even skip Ethan's prostate. Nothing major was wrong. But how to put it? Just dizziness, nausea, vomiting, lethargy. While the three of us were eating and sleeping in the hospital, Frank Carter arrived carrying a bag of fruit and a case of milk. He came alone. It was the same in the last life. After the accident, that woman never appeared again. Ethan wanted to rush up and punch him, but I gave his thigh another vicious pinch. He grimaced in pain and resentment, but obediently sat back on the bed. "This is stuff I bought." "Heh heh, sister, have some milk." Frank tore open the milk packaging and handed us each a bag. Ethan and Nathan stole glances at me and didn't dare move. Then have some fruit." He didn't get angry, just gave a goofy smile. He took out an apple and wiped it on his dirty clothes. "If you have something to say it. Cut the crap." This man looked like an honest, simple guy, but he was rotten to the core. "Nothing much, just came to see you all and ask you to sign something." He pulled out a paper. "We got off on the wrong foot, but in my village, this means fate brought us together from now on. Let's treat each other like family. Your son is my son, and my son is your son. I'm from out of state. You can't ruin my son's chances at a government job." He placed the letter of forgiveness in front of me and handed over a pen. "Get lost, you old scum," waiting for my command. The big and small guardians who could barely hold back immediately grabbed Frank Carter and threw him out of the ward. I picked up the milk to drink. Might as well. One look, it was freaking expired. Frank Carter returned a week later. This time he didn't bring anything, and he wasn't smiling. He came straight over and handed me an envelope. "Here's $20,000, squeezed it out from between our teeth. Satisfied now?" He cursed endlessly. "I know y'all are fine. You just realized us rural folk are easy to bully and want to extort money. I'm giving it to you, taking our hard-earned blood and sweat money. I hope you have the life to take it, but not the life to spend it. 20,000. Ethan couldn't wait to grab the envelope and open it. I slapped the back of his head, snatched the envelope, and threw it back. Hey, my money. Who said we want money? We want justice. It doesn't matter if you're from the country or the city. If you beat people up, you have to bear legal responsibility. Stop pretending, you black-hearted city folk. If you don't want money, why are you lingering in the hospital? Who says we're fine? I'm dizzy and sleepy every day, my son has unexplained swelling, and my husband's brain seems to have been beaten faulty. Frank jumped in anger. "Fuck you, throw him out." I just waved my hand gently, and my left and right guardians stepped forward, covered his mouth, and tossed him out. "Wifey, that's 20 grand. Why not take it? That's equal to several years of my salary. This bastard is actually rich." Ethan leaned in with a cheeky grin, counting on his fingers. "If we took it, we really might not have the life to spend it. Didn't you hear him say extortion? If we take that money, it becomes a crime of blackmail." "Oh God, you're right. This old scum looks goofy but is full of schemes." "Wifey, you're brilliant. See, if this house didn't have a woman, you two would be in jail by now. Peel me an apple." "You got it." Ethan happily went to wash the fruit. "Mom, are you not drinking this milk? Then I'll drink it." "Drink up, it's good for your brain." I lay back staring at the hospital ceiling, thinking, I wouldn't let this go if Frank didn't pay. Of course, even if he paid, I wouldn't let it go. Letting this man roam free is a danger to society. Early the next morning, Ethan went out to get food at my urging. As soon as he left the ward, he screamed like he'd seen a ghost. "What are you howling for? Did you see your mother?" "Motherfucker, who the hell put a funeral wreath here? Your granddaddy isn't dead yet. It must be Frank Carter. I'm gonna hammer him to death." "Wait." I stopped Ethan. "Oh my God, who sends a funeral wreath to a surgical ward? Trying to curse someone to death." Ethan cried and shouted, drawing everyone on the floor out of their rooms. What a wicked thing to do, sending a wreath to a hospital. I wondered why my test results were bad yesterday. Someone cursed me. How does this hospital have no security? Check the cameras. Who did this? This is attempted murder. Oh, my heart hurts from the anger. I want to switch wards. Doctor, move me to another floor. I want to switch too. I have chest tightness and shortness of breath. I want to go to internal medicine. Suddenly, everyone was clamoring to switch rooms. Some of the older, superstitious patients were clutching their chests, looking like they might faint, demanding to transfer hospitals entirely. The city hospital had never seen such an incident in years, forcing the director to come out and appease everyone. He was giving out free milk powder and apologizing profusely. This kind of malicious incident must be investigated thoroughly. Detention for those who deserve it. compensation for those who deserve it. Although there were no cameras in the ward, there were some at the hospital entrance. It was easy to find the video of Frank Carter walking and holding something. That round object was obviously a wreath. The director's face turned iron green with rage. "Call the police, do it now, I will drag this menace out." Because of a small wreath, Frank Carter, who had just been released, was arrested again and given 15 days of administrative detention. The money I had thrown back was used to compensate the hospital and the patients. Having been in the clink twice, Frank was obviously much more well-behaved. When the police came to mediate again, hearing the settlement amount getting higher, he was unconvinced but had to hold it in. His eyelids were swollen, looking like a balding toad. "Officer, we don't want money. We just feel that his behavior bullying people just because he's a simple farmer is a danger to society." All right, stop acting like you didn't just win the lottery. Hurry up and issue the forgiveness letter. You've used up so many administrative resources for this petty mess. Witnessed by the police, money was exchanged for the letter. However, considering Frank had just paid the hospital, he only gave $10,000 on the spot. The remaining $10,000 would be paid in installments, cleared within a year. The next day, our family of 3 left the hospital, glowing with health, and went straight to a luxury hotel for a feast. The hotel was truly luxurious, and the food was delicious. The only flaw was that looking at Ethan's old face affected my appetite a bit. If only I could swap him for a young, handsome guy. "Wifey, you're amazing, you're my idol now." His mouth was stuffed with food. As he spoke, Crab Row drooled down the corner of his mouth, just like when he soiled the bed in his past life. I instantly lost my appetite. The rest of my life is long. I can't keep looking at this man. Forever Frank's money only came for 1 month. When Ethan went to ask for it, Frank just played the rogue. He figured since he already had the forgiveness letter, owing money wouldn't send him to jail. Ethan came back cursing and swearing, empty-handed. "You are truly useless," I pointed at his forehead and scolded. "Didn't you say no fighting? Otherwise, I would have hammered him to death. You hammer when you need to hammer." I hated that he was incapable. I tossed the photos developed at the photo studio onto the table. "I've already investigated. That woman isn't his wife. Wait until it's pitch black, go to their village and paste these photos everywhere. See if he dares to act tough then. In the last life, after the accident, only Frank Carter came to cause trouble. The woman never showed her face. The more I thought about it, the fishier it seemed. I originally just wanted to spread the word about their indecency in the wild, but after digging around, I discovered a dirty secret. Ethan took action that very night. Early the next morning, he excitedly took me to sneak a peek at the crime scene. Oh my God, what is this? My eyes, I'm blind. The first to discover the photos was an old man collecting scrap. He shouted about the shame while covering his eyes, but peeking through his fingers. Waving the photos, he ran and howled. "Village chief, secretary, accountant, something big has happened in our village, call a meeting." Dawn was just breaking, and the village was quiet. The scrap collector had a loud voice. After a few hollers, many people threw on clothes and opened their doors. "What's the yelling for? A murder?" "Oh mother, this is worse than murder. I don't even have the face to say it." Worse than pigs and dogs. That day, Ethan and I ate dry buns with plain water, hiding on the hill to watch the show all day. Frank Carter was dragged out of bed, sleepy-eyed. Dragged out of another woman's bed, specifically. He was tied up at the entrance of the village committee, his head almost buried in his crotch. Men, women, and children of the whole village took turns criticizing and spitting on him. He kept his head down, not daring to make a sound. Only when someone shoved the woman did he look up, glaring with bovine eyes. "I forced Sheila to do it. It has nothing to do with her. Idiot, I can't believe that in my past life, I let such a blockhead destroy my family." At dusk, a car arrived from town. 2 officers in uniform stepped out and slapped a pair of silver bracelets on the bruised and swollen Frank Carter. Adultery is one thing, but this woman's husband was a soldier, and causing such a massive uproar with scandalous photos flying everywhere. This was a serious matter. "Don't worry, we will investigate thoroughly," the police spoke to the village cadres before hurriedly collecting the evidence. Frank kept his head down, but I could see his fists clenched tight. After the crowd dispersed, Ethan tugged on my sleeve. "Will they really investigate?" I bit into the dry bun and mumbled, "Let them investigate. No one saw you do it anyway." Frank Carter spent another 6 months in jail before getting out. He didn't dare rat us out, probably afraid we'd expose all their dirty laundry. When he was released, Ethan was waiting impatiently at the prison gate. For 6 months, he hadn't had the mind to do anything. All day long, he thought about the remaining $10,000. I told him whatever he got back, he could keep. He didn't want to drive anymore. He spent his days dreaming of using the money to rent a place and be a boss, or learning from rich people to play the stock market, hearing that you could double your money easily. It was much faster money than long-haul driving. Now he wasn't doing any honest work, and Nathan was getting arrogant too, dreaming all day of being a rich second-generation kid. I couldn't help it. In this era, money really does beget money. Before Ethan left, I not only cheered him on but specifically gave him a few developed photos to carry, just in case. If he dares to act tough, slap these photos on his face. Right, this is what he fears most. Plus, I brought this. He flipped open a Swiss Army knife and put it in his pocket. The man left in the morning. We saw his corpse in the afternoon. Frank Carter, driven to a dead end, had stabbed dozens of bloody holes in him. He was gone on the spot. The incident caused quite a sensation. At the trial a year later, the crowd was huge. Even the TV station came. I saw Frank Carter again. His cheeks were sunken, he was emaciated, and his prison uniform hung loose. He kept searching for something in the crowd, but he found nothing. He was sentenced to death. My son and I took this news to visit Ethan's grave. The TV crew followed to film. Nathan cried on the grave. I cried and cursed at the same time. I worked so hard to save you, and this is how you repay me. How cruel is your heart, leaving us orphans and widows behind while you go enjoy yourself in the afterlife. I don't want to live anymore. I'm going to join you. My son came over and hugged me. Mom, I promise to study hard. When I grow up, I'll make sure you live a happy life. After his father's death, my son matured overnight and stopped arguing with me. He became more and more ambitious. Not long after, the city's legal channel did a special program on the incident. A legal expert commented, reminding the general public, understand the principle of the happy man's retreat. In today's society, some individuals who have been to prison and have no family are extremely dangerous. Not only should we not provoke these people, but when we encounter them, we must learn to yield. Don't chase a desperate foe. I understood this saying best. After all, in my last life, I jumped off a building holding Frank Carter while he was forcing me to pay debts. I had no way to live, so we might as well die together. Actually, I knew early on that the $10,000 he paid us was Frank's limit. His family only had a leaking, broken house left. After that ugly scandal, his wife divorced him, taking the house and the land. Everything he owned was like a bubble, and we popped it. The program ended with a black and white photo of the victim. I smiled softly at the young Ethan.